Okay, here is the tutorial on how to build your very own RCF1 car. So to get it started, here are all the tools that we're going to be using. We're going to use some super glue. This is a RC multi-tool, but the main one is this M3 part right there. Small screwdriver. Doesn't really matter if it's a flathead or a Phillips. I always use a flathead just because it's easier to fit this one bolt into the car later on. We've got like clippers. Hopefully we don't need those. And this right here, it's just this another fastener bit there, and then we have a pair of clamps, which I'm going to be using to fix the rear suspension, and some lubricant. So to start, I have the body right here. I went ahead and sanded the outside, but that's not entirely necessary. And to get us started, I'm going to build the rear suspension right away. So you have this lower section of the suspension. You're just going to fit it in there, wiggle it around until it sits in there. Then I have this tiny, I want to say 8mm little quarter or 1/8 inch little pipe right here, and I just need that so we can fit it inside here, and it's kind of like a little fixture, a little axle for the rear suspension. So really hope you were able to see that. Okay, so now it's in there, and now this lower section can't come back out of its little hole. It's fitted in there. Actually, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and put actually a little bit of tape around the outside of this, because it's not quite fitting very securely in there. You want it to be a very tight fit so it doesn't come back inside the gear assembly. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put a little bit of tape on the outside. We're going to try that again. So now the little axle there has been forced into place right behind that gear assembly, where the gear assembly can go, and now with the extra tape is securely in place. Okay, so here's the gear assembly. I've already glued these little spacers in place, because this is actually an older assembly, but basically this is going to go on top right here, and you need 2 of these little, they're going to be used as bearings, but they're little spacers, and then you have your crown gear and this little 3D printed spacer. And so before you put in the top, you're going to want to slide the motor in there already with the pinion already on there, and this is a little type 130 motor, I think. I got it from Tamiya. This particular model, this Japan Cup, is way too fast, so this is actually like a spliced motor. It has a different axle in the middle. Probably shouldn't do that, but it seems to work fine. So, and just slide it on in there. Try not to break our car. Seems like we haven't broken it. And now it's in there, and now the pinion sticks out right in the middle of this assembly. And just a quick test fit before I glue it down. Does this turn? Okay, so now that we've verified that, now I've verified that it can actually turn. This axle is able to turn, and it's spinning the motor. It can feel it. We're going to take that back off, and instead what we're going to do is we're going to take a whole bunch of this lubricant, and we're just going to flood the inside of this area right here with a whole bunch of this lubricant. Just fill it up with however much you're going to need for the lifetime of this car, and then take our super glue and go on the bottom of this nylon here, and maybe a little bit on the ends. There is a way to have too much, but only really if you ever want to disassemble your car. I know for me, because I've been building a whole bunch of these, I've disassembled it a whole bunch, and so just a little bit amount of glue is just plain. Okay, so now that we've actually glued it, we're going to take these clamps that I saved from before and put them on the back of the suspension, and just make sure that it's all lined up, everything's straight, and leave that to just dry. Okay, so now I have left this to sit for a little while. It should be dry now, so you can take off the clips. Now the whole rear assembly is dry, and it still spins, so that is good. That's all done. First thing I'm going to do after that is install this right here. It's a little, I guess, a thumbtack that's flat, but it's made out of metal. So it's not incredibly important, but I'm just going to put it on the front, the leading edge of the floor, and that helps. If it bottoms out, then it's hitting, it's hitting metal and not, some part of the plastic that could wear away over time. Again, it's not incredibly important, but it is nice to have that extra piece of metal, just so if it does bottom out, it's there. Okay, so now we're going to install the front suspension. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take your little M3 and stick it in there. Make sure that it's oriented the right way. And I take the flathead and shove it all the way back, and that looks fine. And now we take our suspension piece, fit it on there, take this little bolt right here, and screw that inside. So now that that's all screwed up, screwed in, we can install the servo. So I've got my servo right here, and on the servo I already have this little thin wire, as well as my steering pieces, or my steering linkage right here. So for these steering links, what you're going to do is you're going to take a small M3 screw and cut off one of the sides, and take off the side that was cut, and shove it in this way and put in some super glue and then clamp it in there. You don't want too much, otherwise it'll come flooding out, but just enough to keep it permanently in there. And I've been reusing these same steering links for like a few cars, so they're fairly strong. So now what you do, just feed the wire through here, shove the servo inside. I don't even worry about gluing it because the friction fit is so good. Just make sure that you leave enough room at this little inlet here so that the body panel can actually fit over that side. I'm going to actually give it more space. Okay, and then for our steering links, I must have put this on backwards, so I just spin that around and line up the holes, and we take this tiny little bit of tubing. Doesn't really matter what kind of tubing or rod. This is a carbon fiber 1/8 inch rod, but it could be, you know, it doesn't have to be carbon fiber, but I like the carbon fiber because it makes it seem more, you know, like a race car, right? Okay, so stick that in there. You've got the other side. And this is what we're going to end up doing, but I'm just going to go ahead and link that on there, but go ahead and feed both sides through. Okay, so now I have the carbon fiber rod that goes through, and on both sides we're going to take our little wake pieces that go over the front tires, put them on there, take a little bit of super glue, and fix it down just on the top. Now, the carbon fiber rods, you shouldn't glue inside the actual steering linkage, because if you ever break the suspension, which is possible to do, or if you just want to, you know, I don't know, like if you ever want to add some other kind of suspension to it, like one made out of a flexible material or whatever, you're going to want to take those out. So what I did for mine is I just put a little bit of super glue around the rod and let it just dry, and so that I increased the diameter just enough to make it so it's snug in there, but then I can pull it out whenever I need to.